Hey guys, what's up? It's coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with and I would say this morning we got into the car at like a reasonable time. I'm not really thrilled about it. I'm not really happy with the time that I got into my car, but it is definitely not the worst time that I've ever had. If that makes any, like, you know what I mean, it's not the worst. There have been times where I've obviously been much later than this, so it's still on a good trajectory. Actually, what happened this morning is I just think I woke up like a little bit too early, and I really just wasn't able to get out of bed. And kind of right when I should have got out of bed, I fell back asleep for about 15 or 20 minutes, and that was really the nail in the coffin. Because then when I woke up again, it was fairly last minute. But I can't say that it was a horrible morning, but it kind of felt kind of bad to me, honestly. And I guess that's just because I didn't really get to um, be how I wanted to be, if that makes like it is almost like worse to have to deal with that, if that makes sense. Even just a slight um suboptimal like morning like that. I mean, I guess you could make the argument like it's better than just waking up and needing to go, but at the same time it's kind of not, cuz like I didn't really have that much time to relax. I mean, I was sort of relaxing, but it was a not, it wasn't really a true, like, relaxed state because I was obviously cognizant of the fact that I need to get up, I need to get moving. And so, not a super relaxed. Man, this microphone. Keep trying to adjust it, and all this adjusting just for it to do that. Anyways, wow. I don't know. It's because it's wrapped around the thing again. It always gets wrapped around the wire. Well, the wire gets wrapped around the other thing. Sorry, I'm not explaining well. Anyways, yeah, I really don't know that I have too much to report. Um, it wasn't really a great situation. Things did not work out how I wanted them to. And yeah, like we know that because of the previous. I just was complaining about the situation yesterday for an extremely long period of time. Not getting my package after putting all this effort in to try to get there and stuff. You know, it's pretty rough. But yeah, I think that's the main thing. It hasn't been a great time, but the bright news is that it's Friday. That is pretty bright news, so I can't really complain that much. But my mind and my body it's very worn, and I don't even know. It's just not like it just hasn't been. It just hasn't been good. I don't know. So I'm trying to. I actually don't even know. I think my energy has depleted so low that I can't even really try to like change things at this point. Like, it's not the desire, the energy, the drive to be able to have extra energy to be like, oh, let me do this, let me try this, this will solve things, that'll, I think that is not really present. It was before, but it wasn't for long enough, and I never really got to do anything with it. Like, it's been months now, and my room still isn't clean. And really no progress has been made at all. Despite all the work that I've done, it hasn't really been enough, and then for the past couple months, I just lost it. And then here we are. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I guess my only like way to look at it is I've been able to hold down a job, and that is like a good thing, but it's a fairly low bar, and I have the mind to know the potential of where I could be and what I could be doing, but I'm just not there, and based on a lot of things in my personal life, they've really made it difficult to reach for the stars. It's just like, I don't know. But that's the main thing. I think the problem is with a lot of this stuff is more people, especially more older people, they need to understand that things are broken and they need a major restructuring. That's the problem. That's the problem. Is that people still think like, well, you just try your best and you just, and it's, I mean, why should I get a job with 10% more pay if I'm only, and it's going to be like 10% more pay and like 50% more work? I mean, I get it. Like, if you're thinking in the long game, it would look better on a resume and for your like whole career, but that's risky. Like, to me, it's like really risky, because the benefit of my current job is that it's just a good job. And, to venture into the unknown, it's a high risk, it's a low reward. And also, that boss or manager may not even be able to get me overtime in the way that I'm able to do in my current department. So there's a lot of risk, there's minimal reward, and it's still not like I'm actually making a living wage. I mean, I would take a 50% more work in exchange for a living wage. If I was making 25 an hour and I was doing 50% more work, but I was paid appropriately, that's where it's not about me as a person, it's about the system, it's about how much companies are paying people. We need a higher minimum wage, all this stuff I've already talked about. None of this stuff is my fault, and I definitely shouldn't be risking like a potentially detrimental decision, like I mean, this decision could be terrible. Like I said, like just making 10% more money still not going to make ends meet. It's not really going to matter. Just for some hypothetical long game, like, oh, well, you could get a better job this way, but then you also might not. And maybe it would look better if I had more of a continuous resume on one thing. I just don't agree with it in the slightest. That's really the main problem, I think. I think on a fundamental level, it's like, I don't like that culture of like, well, just switch jobs. Well, you worked here for a bit, now you're just leaving, finding somewhere better to make more money. No, that has to stop. You need to have some kind of more universal system where, most of the businesses are paying the same amount. So then you don't have that. And then people can actually become experts within specific companies or doing specific tasks. I mean, I've been working in my department for a while, and if I just left, that just doesn't really, to me, that doesn't make that much sense because I've already done and learned so much. And it's like, I just I can't imagine abandoning all that just to make like $1 more an hour or $2 more an hour. Like, that's not, just doesn't make any sense. But I think the main thing is, it's like my present situation, I guess, is the main thing. It's too good to be thinking about legitimately changing it. Now, like I said before, I'd be open to getting like a second job. A second job would be, because then I could at least hold on to that primary. Like, I don't want to lose that job. That job has been so good for me, and my coworkers and my boss. Like, I don't want to lose that job. I'd rather get a second job than give up that one, But I think that is the bottom line. It's just there's no way I'm ready to pass up what I have right now. It's too good, and anything better that I could get is going to be marginally better, and it's just completely not worth it. I'm sorry, for just like $1,000 more dollars a year or something like that, that's not going to be able to make or break me able to pay rent. And I'm tired of people making these long-term promises, because I am assuming your logic is going, well, you build on it, and then you work that job, and yeah, it sucks in the short term, but then eventually you end up getting some kind of higher thing from it. But then, on the other hand, what if I could have got the same thing from doing what I'm doing? You see what I mean? Like, it's just not, I'm tired of empty promises. A lot of people nowadays, it seems like they operate and they like lead me on into these empty promise type of situations where, oh, well, in the future you'll make more money. And it's like, I'm looking at the data, and chances are high that I won't, unless I'm some exceptional person. I actually won't. You know what I mean? Like, I won't make more money because on average people's wages has dropped. So for most working Americans, they're making effectively worse pay. Raises are not actual raises because they don't combat inflation. So you're not actually, like, when I get a raise, it's not really a raise because it's not a true raise. It's just to keep it, it's not even keeping up with inflation. It's keeping up with less than inflation. So over time, I'm likely going to be making less money. Now, of course, there's the slim chance that I could strike up to becoming a manager. But again, I don't even understand how that's fair, because that's not an equal opportunity thing. It's like there's only one manager for, how many people? I think, to be generous, maybe like 20% of people are managers, but I think that's wrong. I think I would say, because some departments are small, some are large, I would say it's probably more like 10%. I couldn't even say 20% of people are managers, because sometimes there's a manager overseeing like a ton of people. So yeah, I mean, I feel like what I'm saying, it's sound, and especially given my situation, it's just like I'm really not interested in sacrificing when I have something so good, and then what if like I can't deal with this? It's too risky. I want life to start to be like how it was before, where things were a little bit more guaranteed. I know that there was always risk, but in general, in the past, people stayed at the same career for longer. There was a sense of stability. Let's start going back to that time, as opposed to continuing to entertain this incredibly flawed and mentally destructive model of like, oh, here's an opportunity, grab it. And then it's like 10% more money, 30% more work. Torture your mind. And then, yeah, maybe in 3 or 4 years it'll pay off, but maybe it won't. And it's just like, it has to stop. It just has to stop. You have to start just raising the minimum wage, giving people a chance to breathe, and then, having some time to really look at a career or figure things out. And obviously there's going to be people who take advantage of things. There's going to be some slackers who take advantage of, a higher minimum wage. But you have to accept that in exchange for a broad platform that is conducive to something. A broad platform where people can actually achieve and reach their higher form. In a broad sense, it opens up the scope. So I think it's worth it, rather than just making things dirt and basing most of it off of like some kind of dynasty thing where it's like, yeah, I mean, if you have a rich parent now, you probably have more opportunity than ever, but then you're not giving people broad access, so there's going to be a lot of missed talent in a system like that. There's going to be tons of missed talent in a system where you gut welfare and you gut the bottom line. There's a lot of people out there who could be more talented, but because of dynasty things, then yeah, because of like dynasty stuff. Okay, sorry, that's just ticking me off because this person just wasn't moving. They just weren't moving. Anyways, yeah, like it's a dynasty thing, and that's fine, but I think there's limited evidence that like that actually works. There are cases of poor people who poor people who are actually very talented, and oftentimes some of the greatest speakers and some of the best people are not born into like particularly rich or special families. Sometimes they come out of the rubble. And if you have a system where all that stuff is gutted and minimum wages are extremely low, you're not really giving anyone breathing room. So it's again, it's something in the short term. It is beneficial. It's beneficial to businesses to cut wages, especially the lowest paid workers. But it's like a quick money grab. In the long run, when you look at what that does to the long-term health health of a business, how a lot of younger people jump around to a bunch of different jobs, and then younger people jump around to different jobs, and so they're not staying at the same. That's doing a lot of damage, because you're having a bunch of people in jobs and occupations who they're not really that familiar with the product, or the thing that they're dealing with, whatever it is. I mean, it even comes down to like a specific store and knowing a store inside and out. Even if you're working retail, you understand, like, well, this is how the store is arranged, this is how the store was arranged, and you can actually help people. Noticed a lot recently whenever you're at a store and you need to ask an employee a question, they just don't know. They can never really help you. They have to look it up on their thing or whatever, because it's a bunch of people who maybe have only worked there and will only end up working there for like a year or two before they just bounce to another job, because they either have a breakdown or they get too tired. And again, why are they having a breakdown? Why are they too tired? It's likely because their pay isn't high enough in conjunction with all the other nonsense that is going on in society, with the technology addiction and things like that. I'm not saying it's people's fault for having a breakdown. I think it's like reasonable that somebody, after working a job like Target, for example, and you're only making like, I don't know, $16, $17 an hour, and then you can only handle that for like a year and you just have to quit it. And how dirty of a system that is. Like, think about how dirty that system is. Think about the negative karma that the CEO who's just running it and running it that way is. It's probably, I mean, again, I know God only God can judge, but that's got to be some filthy karma. I don't know who the CEO of Target is, but I'm sure that they are making a extreme amount of money, far more than anybody would ever need. I'm certain of that. And I think it's just a lot of negative karma. I think it really is just a ton of extremely negative and terrible karma being generated. So I guess there's a logic to these things. I don't know. Well, I want to think there's a justice. I've talked about this before. I'd like to think that there is a justice. Because if there really isn't a justice, that doesn't sit right with my soul. And just to be on the safe side, I don't act like there isn't a justice to stand in the face of God. I actually think, getting upset, really trying to do things, really trying to change things in the face of God, it actually would help you to follow God's rules more closely. Because if you think, oh, well, this world is, because I've heard this from a lot of Christians, oh, well, this world's fallen, what can you do? What can you do about it? We can only do so much, and the world's already fallen, and, that's what God says. God says that the world's fallen. You try your best, but you can't really do too much, Where does that attitude, is that going to make you be better as a Christian, or is that almost like an excuse? I mean, I'm upset about things because I have the foresight to see how simple it would be to have superior systems. We have the technology, we have the thinkers to try to start experimenting with new and more efficient systems that would revolutionize human life and really start to improve on some things, and we're not doing it, mostly due to what I believe are, as I've already described, a lack of human talent like analysis, because there's obviously, there's a lot of people who are talented, but they can't see the light of day because they can't they're in a low visibility system. And like I said, I think AI will kind of change that once the hyper surveillance state is here. It'll actually change that a little bit. And I mean, even just now, thinking in the long game, I'm assuming that's what the elites are thinking. Like, the elites are probably thinking in the long game, and yeah, I don't even, because when I went over that bump thing yesterday, I actually don't think that did. I'm confused because I don't. Anyway, sorry. I lost my train of thought. I got distracted about that. That's a shame. But yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. And in that hypothetical system, they could probably just be able to pick out the talent while still gutting the welfare. I know it's not super possible to do that because a lot of times, like, people get lucky or successful at any point in their life. So it's kind of difficult or impossible, even with like forced brain chips and stuff. I think it's difficult or impossible for to actually predict certain outcomes, because some people it's really unpredictable. You don't know. For some people, it's very unpredictable. They randomly, at the end of their life, have some kind of unpredictable career change, or, things happen that maybe an AI in conjunction with a brain chip couldn't figure out. you know? So you have to wonder about that. I'm starting to trail off, sadly, but I mean, I know it's not perfect. Because I like to try to think of how the elites are thinking, and I do genuinely have a feeling they're well aware of the visibility issue of talent visibility, and that they just assume that they can gut the welfare and have a hyper surveillance state that is able to, weed out, take out the good flowers from the weeds, essentially. I know GPT just likes to write that off as, oh, don't try to rationalize what the elites are doing because they're not necessarily good people. They could just have pretty empty thoughts or promises about these things, like, and I get that, but I kind of think that behind the scenes there could be some kinds of rationales like that. I guess I just find it difficult to believe that there would truly be no rationale. Like, that doesn't really sit right with me or seem right. So, doesn't really sit right or seem right. I have a feeling there's some kind of these justifications going on behind the scenes. I would really doubt that elites are like that. I don't know. And what else am I thinking of? The thing I actually didn't even plan on talking about any of that, so that was kind of interesting. But it's obviously something I care about like a lot. What I want to talk about now is kind of the obnoxious nature of food and just how honestly annoying people are about food, like, because as it's been for a while now, I'm just eating my ground beef and cheese refrigerated. I don't even heat it up. And something I didn't really realize about that is the obnoxious nature of heating things up, you know? I never really thought about it, and I'm assuming nobody else really does either, but it is technically just a huge waste of electricity for like nothing, because very often you can have, like, once a food is already cooked, um there's no reason to even use a microwave to heat it up. And I assume, I don't have like specific knowledge about it, I assume microwaves are fairly efficient. Like, I'm sure they are. They're fairly efficient. They're usually only on for what, like 5 minutes at the most. Sometimes, like when I was microwaving my stuff, it was like, it wasn't really for that long. Like, I would probably only need to microwave my things for like, I don't know, 2 minutes, you know? So I understand, like, yeah, that's kind of a negligible amount of electricity. It's not really that crazy, and I get that. But I do know as an appliance, like, a microwave does have the potential to use a lot of wattage. As far as I know, like, it does. It uses a lot of wattage. Um, Same with these things like ovens, and I mean even stoves, you know, to cook the food. But I mean, that's kind of, no, I mean, at that point you can't really eliminate that. Like, I think that I will also make a comment on how a lot of people, they don't batch cook like I do. I mean, I use the stove once a week because I cook all my food for the week. And technically, if I was in a house with a bigger freezer, I'd probably be able to cook like once every 2 weeks or something like that. I think I could pull that off, if I'm being like completely honest with you. I mean, it would be a little bit trickier, but I think if I had my own house and stuff, I'd probably be able to pull that off, where like I'd only use the stove once every 2 weeks. But already as is, the way I live and function, it's incredibly more environmentally friendly. I know it's meat, which they say that meat, cows are like not good for that kind of stuff, but in my case, it's like, because of the efficient nature of how I'm preparing the food, it's good. Like, I don't know, because if I only use my stove once a week, that's already like way better than like 99% of the population. You see what I'm saying? So, and I could even get it down to only once every 2 weeks. I mean, hypothetically, I could have it down to even like more extremes than that. What if I only had to cook all in one batch like once a month or something? And you have to remember too, you're not just saving electricity, you're saving wear and tear on the appliance. So that's like another like thing to keep in mind is you're saving a lot of wear and tear on the appliance. We're reaching pretty good light luck today, honestly. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was like almost perfect, and we're gonna end up making a pretty good time. So, but yeah, not only that, but like if you use a microwave every day, it's obviously gonna break a lot faster versus never even needing to use a microwave at all and just heating food up on a stove. And so there's a vanity to that, is what I'm getting at. Not only when you cook food does it smell, it stinks. I actually think it's pretty disgusting. And it stinks, and especially if people put a bunch of herbs and spices in it, it really stinks. And everybody likes to add spices and they like criticize people for not, but I think there's zero reason to add spices to food. It's just like, get over it, you know. What I'm doing, it's actually kind of monastic to just eat refrigerated food all the time. There's a monastic nature to that. It's living more in accordance with some kind of natural law, or like, you know, it's not just constantly, you know, splurging down this endless path of hedonism. It's actually like, you know, doing something good. So that is the difference. Okay, did that actually... Well, went through anyway. I don't... Like, it's there on the thing, so... Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. Because it says it went through, even though it's like saying otherwise. Anyways, that was confusing. Sorry. I think I'm fine, though. Believe I'm fine. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. That is not what I meant to do. Anyways... Anyways... Well, no, I kind of wanted to finish what I was talking about, honestly. And yeah, I mean, I'm not realizing, like, the amount of stink that it makes, the amount of wattage it wastes just for people to, like, warm up their food. It's crazy. It's actually, like, really stupid. And, you know, it's one of those things that, like, you don't even know something until you try it. So why don't we just not try it? Like, why don't we just restrict heating up food? It's really obnoxious. And again, nobody sees it that way because everybody does it. But that's like a lot of things. Like, oh, everybody gets impatient and speeds on the, like they go heavy on the throttle, heavy on the brake when they drive. Yeah, everybody does it, so nobody cares. Nobody's really that accountable for it. That doesn't mean it's good. It's still obnoxious. It just doesn't seem obnoxious because humans usually feel completely fine about doing something if other people do it too. And then that's usually it. Like other people do it too, and then that's that. They don't really feel bad about it. It's actually when, like, I'm pointing out what would be better, a better way of living, but since nobody does it, then they're going to judge that, even though it really would be a better system for us to stop stinking up places by cooking a bunch of crazy food and just be fine with plain food. Like there's literally nothing. I'm completely happy. I'm not upset. It's fine. So anyways, it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So see you schla.